What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my final team reveal, and this team has gone in absolute circles, I'm not going to lie, but this is it. Not changing anymore, obviously depending on rookies, but yeah, let's get straight into it. So D1 I have Sam Doherty. So already spoken plenty about this guy, but I just think the role's clearly there. He's going to get possessions on the back line, he's going to get possessions in the midfield. I think whilst coming back doesn't hurt him too much, just because he has multiple ways of scoring, and I think he's the only one out of the defenders that could possibly go that 115, 120 range. He's shown he's done in the past, so I think Doherty's a great pick. I think he's a moderate tag target. I still think they prefer to shut down Cripps and Doherty, but we'll wait and see because Doherty is quite damaging, and they also have Sard back there, so I don't think teams will tag our halfbackers. Normally, most teams with like a Dacos or something, they'll have like one superstar halfback, and Carlton have a couple. So I think that sort of rules out the tags for him, which I really like. So D2 we have Jordan Dawson. Now I had McGovern, and I've cooled a bit on him just because I think the injury risk is just too great, and yeah, a lot would have to go right. So I just think we'd have to go with Dawson. I think his average is slightly undervalued, or his price is slightly undervalued for his average. I think he started off the year last year playing a bit out of position, so he'll play in the right position this year, and I think, yeah, we just have to not necessarily start him, but he's going to come into our team at some point, so happy with the Jordan Dawson pick, and just really safe, plenty of kick-ins, the role's clearly there. I don't think he'll get tagged early, which is really good. D3 we have Elliot Yeo, so he's someone that has sort of scared a few people away. I think he will be fine. He still had like an 80 or a 78 in relatively low time on ground in the practice match. Looked unreal the first week, and the inter-club apparently dominated. So, yeah, one mediocre game for Yo's not going to sway me off him. I don't think he's a must-have, but in a defence where there's, a lot of, in my opinion, traps, I think Ridley could be a massive trap. I don't think his role has changed enough to the point where he would, improve his average by 10 points or 15 points, which is what he would have to do. We'd have to at least improve it by 10. And I don't think he's done that, so I think he could actually trap a lot of people. But yeah, I think Yo is really good value. And just quickly before we get on to D4, I actually noticed, went back and watched through my team reveal and a couple of the YouTubers' team reveals in this time last year, and we all pretty much had Whitfield, Crisp, and Short, who ended up being flops. So I'm really scared of, and they were all around the 500, 550k mark. So I'm a bit scared of guys like that. They were supposed to be, locks, and they weren't. So something to note of just in general as well, like these guys that you think are locks, they're not always locks. It's not always as simple as what it might seem. So yeah, just something to think about there. D4 we have Ruben Gimme, so played really well, and I think he's got good job security. Nothing much to say about him. And then we have Connor McKenna, so he's one that I think is capable of going 70, but he hasn't shown it yet, which is something that I'm not too happy about. As an on-field option, it scares me a little bit, but at this point, I think the role is clearly there. He just has to pull his head in, I guess, and find the bloody ball. But yeah, the role's definitely there. So D6, we have Charlie Constable, and I think his role is really good. Plenty of kicks, really good kick to handball ratio, I believe. So yeah, I'm happy with Constable. And then Wilmot we have at D7. So his role I'm not too sure about. Like, he's got the wing role, so he might go in the 50s. So not too happy about him. Hopefully he has a relatively good job security. And then Sin Cotter at D8. This could obviously be Cowan, or it could be anyone else. Like I said, rookies will depend on teams. Now, do we go midfield or do we go... I think we'll go the midfield. We'll work our way down. So at M1, I have the Bont. And I think the Bont is just too hard to pass up on. He is champion data's lover or love child. So I think, yeah, without Dunkley, the CBAs naturally go up a little bit. He finished the season really well, and he had a down season for his standards and still went 116. So I think he's an absolute lock for a top 8 mid, and the value's probably, his price is not too bad for what he could do. I think he could go 125 plus, and ultimately be M1 this year with the full-time mid-roll. So yeah, no reason for him to go forward. Lob's there. I don't see why they would play him forward. So yeah, Bont safe as houses in my opinion, and 30% ownership for a very good reason. At M2 we have Jack McRae. So little bit of a controversial one, and one that I have sort of tossed and turned about over the course of the preseason. But the last week or so, I've been pretty hot on this guy, and I think 115 in a down year as well. I think his floor is just so high, and the ceiling is M1 with a 129 average. So definitely you can get back to that. Honestly, without Dunkley, CBA is going to go up naturally. We just got to hope he doesn't play on that wing. It seemed like he was either playing half forward or half back, or in the CBAs. So I think for McRae, that's pretty much a guaranteed lock, probably a guaranteed 120 plus average, if I'm being honest. But I think they do value Bailey Smith high, a bit higher than him, which does concern me a little bit. But McRae still had plenty of CBAs, and he junked it up in the last quarter, which I really liked. So yeah, it didn't set the world on fire in the Pracky like a Libba and Bont, but definitely did enough for me to pick him. And yeah, I just don't think either of these two guys will be tagged. I think Libba gets the tag if anyone gets tagged. So I'm mentioning taggers a lot, but I think it's very important because these guys can screw with us every week. So it seems like they're going to be more prevalent in this season, even more so than last season, which scares me a lot. So yeah, I want guys that I think that aren't going to get tagged, which in my opinion could be a massive, massive, massive play. It's just, yeah. And that's why I haven't gone Lockie Neal, because I think, obviously, my gut says he doesn't get tagged, and I'm pretty firm on that. But I think if they are going to tag, he's going to be the one that they will go to. I don't see any reason they go to Dunkley to inside, and then they might go to a McCluggage depending on how he's playing. But I think, yeah, Neal's that one where they still just go for that absolute lockdown roll-on if teams are going to tag. But yeah. So, fading led Oliver and Neal. So Oliver had a little bit of halfback time and 42% ownership for me. I still think he's a good pick, but my personal opinion, I wouldn't be taking a risk on him for that much. When there's some uncertainty about his role, and he had high time on ground, and I think he didn't even turn up in the practice match. And obviously, it's a practice match, blah blah blah. But for me, 700k, you got to turn up for me. Otherwise, I'm not picking you. And Laird's one that I'd really like to pick, but yeah, the price is a bit too high for me at this point, and I think there's a bit of better value elsewhere in the side. But yeah, I think Laird's a great pick, and if I had to pick between one of Laird and Oliver, it'd definitely be Laird. And then yeah, like I said with Neal, I just think I just can't fit Neal in at the moment. So yeah, moving on to M3, and we've gone with Jack Steele. So this is definitely one I'm a little bit scared of, but it's quite similar to the Bont and McRae reasoning. So floor of 110, I believe, quite a high floor, obviously, and upside of 125 plus. So all three of these guys have insane upside to them, and I think Steele won't get tagged either. I think he's too inside. I think they're going to go to Sinclair if they're going to tag anyone, because Sinclair is more of an outside player and he can hurt you. But yeah, Steele is very hard to be tagged, and even if he does get tagged, he can really score from tackles and contested possessions. So yeah, I'm hoping Steele was just sort of taking it easy in that second practice match. I actually thought he looked quite good in the first one. So yeah, Steele's one that it scares me a little bit, because he did do the same thing last year. He was quite average in the practice match, and then he pumped out an 85 round one, but he ended up going pretty well after that, before the shoulder injury. But yeah, I'm pretty confident in the Jack Steele pick at this point, just because I think the floor is just so high, and the ceiling is obviously insanely high. So yeah, happy with Steele. We have to go with Tom Green at M4. Now, I've flirted with the idea of upgrading Green to Kelly. Now, reason I didn't is because I think Kelly will be the one that gets tagged in that Jitterbreast midfield. He's the one that could be shut down because he is very outside. They could go to Cogs, they could go to Whitfield, but I think Kelly will be the one that will attract the most attention personally. So yeah, Tom Green, just an inside beast. Hard to not pick him at this point. I mean, how many teams is he in? He's in 32%. Yeah, I think he's done everything right. I don't think he's a lock by any means, but definitely someone that I think the upside's clearly there. He's shown the ceiling, and not much really more to say about him. He's just going to be a contested pig, and hopefully he can do it for the course of the season, because he did fade out a bit later. But yeah, the CBAs are clearly there this season, and no reason he slows down. Looks a bit fitter as well. So yeah. Then we have Jacob Hopper, so a no-brainer pick. Going to get plenty of CBAs at Richmond. I think he can go 95 to 100. It could go a little bit higher, depends. But yeah, I think we're pretty safe for a 95 average from Hopper. Now, I haven't gone any other mid prices, so no Warple. Warple's definitely one that's tempted me. I think you'd have to go about a 90 to be a worthwhile pick, and I just think I don't rate him much as a player. It took him 30 disposals to get to 100 odd. I went through his older scores, and he needed quite a high amount of disposals to crack the 120s. So I think he's definitely a good option. But yeah, I'd rather just go a bit cheaper in the midfield so I can go a bit more expensive elsewhere. But I think if you are picking Warple, it's definitely a worthwhile pick. So Will Ashcroft picks himself. Not much to say about him. He has a really good role. Obviously, stat pads a bit as well. Loves the junk possessions, and I think he can go 90 to 100, to be honest. So he'll make plenty of money for us. Then we have Cam McKenzie, and I think Hawthorn said something like he might not start in round one, or like they're like, oh, he's done everything right, he should be there. I mean, come on, like he was your best player on the day. Like, I mean, besides maybe Warple, but he was definitely in their best three players. Like, how could you not start him? Anyway, they're probably just playing mind games, but yeah, really happy with the Cam McKenzie pick, and hopefully he keeps the CBAs. I don't think he's like Ward. They're different players at the end of the day, so people think, oh, because he's a Hawthorn mid that is 180k, just like Ward was, he's going to be a trap like Ward. I don't think so. But who knows? He could be, but at this point I'm willing to take the risk. I think the upside's clearly there. And yeah. And next guy we have is Will Phillips. So he's one that I'm not so sure about fielding. I did say he had like 23 CBAs, which is really good. Now, Taron Thomas has got to come back into the team, and so does Zerha. So I think they're going to take some CBAs from him. I actually reckon he could be a bit of a sub-risk too. Didn't play last year. Rookie year in the first year, he's quite average. Looked good in. I think he was a high draft pick from memory. He looked good in the practice matches in that rookie year. But yeah, I think he's not the best on-field option, but I think we could maybe loop with him and Oscar Baker. But yeah, they showed that he is quite highly valued, having 23 CBAs. Yeah, how does that affect when Zerha and Taron Thomas come back? I'm not too sure. Seems like they have such a deep mix of average players in that midfield at North, which is a bit frustrating. But yeah, Phillips 158k, you can't really go too wrong, can you? And then M9 we have, where is he? Wow, he's not even in that many teams. Oscar Baker should be in way more teams, I would have thought. Maybe job security. Yeah, picks himself, played really well. I think he's done enough. He's probably one that doesn't have the best job security. Yeah. And Campbell Chesser, so he looked really good. I don't know why he still got the injury thing. I'm pretty sure he's played both practice matches. Anyway. And then we have Elwyn Davey. So yeah, probably all these guys are pretty up in the air about their job security and their role, but for now they're just there because they're probably going to play round one. I think we all sort of know how rookies work, and at this point we just got to wait and see for the final teams. So Rucks. So this is one that's been interesting, and I actually flirted with the idea of Tim English. I really do like his ceiling. However, I just think he doesn't play 22 games. I think it's almost guaranteed. He's had like 3 injuries in the preseason alone. It's not really someone I'd like to trade in and out all the time. So I think I'm just going to go safer and go Jared Witts. Now, he hasn't always been the most durable player, obviously, but I think the upside's there. He's got quite an easy run to start, and yeah, just pretty safe in terms of scoring. Obviously, the role is really good. Doesn't have any other ruck to compete with, whereas pretty much everyone else does besides Marshall. So yeah, I'd rather just go safer in that ruck line. I do like Darcy and English. I think they've got high ceilings, but I think they will get injured at some point. They might even play through injury, and I think they will. I think Darcy especially will lose a bit of ruck time to Jackson. I don't see Jackson just playing for the sake of playing, you know what I mean? He's not going to just be camped on a forward all game. So yeah, happy with the Jackson pick. The Witts pick. R2's Royal Marshall. Not much to say about him. He's a lock. I think there's only 2 locks this whole season, and that would be Dunkley and Marshall. They're the only 2 locks in my whole in all of Supercoach, in my opinion. Oh, and Ashcroft, I guess. Yeah. So at R3 we have Lachlan McAndrew. He's someone that I don't expect to score much, but hopefully just a bit of slow cash, and you never know. Laddams might get hurt. He's pretty injury prone, Peter Laddams. So who knows? He might get hurt, and then we can just go. Maybe McAndrew will be sole ruck, and even if he is, he'll probably still average like 30 the bot. But yeah, whatever at this point. So F1, Josh Dunkley, very confident in his ability to go 120 plus this year. I think he'll be a vice captain option every week. So if you did want to go thinner in the midfield, I think it's not a bad idea. You can still have, you could literally start one Primo mid and then Tom Green. Sorry, one Uber Primo, then Tom Green, and then have Dunkley in, like a Bont going VCC every week. I think that'd be a pretty viable option. Alright, so F2 is going to be controversial because someone that I said was a trap, and I've sort of rethought about things, and some new information's come out, and my opinion's changed on him, and it's Stephen Canelio. So most people go on Rosie over him. Fair enough. Rosie's in how many percent of teams? 45. Okay. So one thing I like about Canelio over Rosie is I don't see him playing forward. I know Jeb West came out and said that he could play forward. We'll utilise both. I think that is BS, and we know coaches do lie. I just logically thinking about it, like they have Callie as their probably number one mid. Then we could say Tom Green. Then who is it? It's got to be Cogs. It's either Cogs or Perryman, and I think Cogs is much better than Perryman. And then after that, they weren't running anyone else in their CBAs. They weren't running Callahan at all. So I think Cogs, especially with their start, I mean, you look at their start, and keep in mind, I think that Josh Kelly will be the one that gets tagged. He's got Adelaide round 1. He's got West Coast round 2, Carlton round 3. All right. Essendon, Hawthorn, Brisbane. Brisbane will be tough. Sydney might be kind of tough. But yeah, the first 5 weeks, I think Cogs is going 110 plus with ease. Like, look at his high score against all of them. 108, 140, 157, 154, 117. And he's even got a 158 against Brisbane. So, Cogs is finally back in his natural role. I think he averaged 111 after the new coach. So Leon Cameron's gone. That's a massive, massive thing to consider. And the reason why I'd rather Cogs over Rosie is because Rosie has so much more to compete with CBA wise. And Rosie is a good forward. Cogs is not a good forward. Now, if the coaches are wise, Rosie will play a little bit of forward time, and Cogs will not touch the forward line because Cogs is terrible in the forward line. So Rosie, I know Boak's gone down, but we'll say Boak, Wines, Drew, Butters. Now, Butters is another one. So one thing about Butters is apparently he was still a bit hurt coming into that last practice match. So he could actually increase his CBA. So we've got four guys already that are fighting for spots. Then we have Horn Francis as well, 5. Will Drew, number 6. I don't know if we've said him yet. So I think we've got 6 so far. Okay. And then we have Rosie at 7. Okay. So this is where it's like, why would I pick Connor Rosie over someone who I think is going to be the clear top 3 best midfielders and has a very easy start to the season? So, I think, Rosie's a great pick, no doubt about it. But for me, I'd much rather Canelio because I just think that upside is clearly there. Like the 111 average after the new coach joined is a very, very important stat. His CBAs went up. He's going to be locked into their midfield. They're going to expect a big All-Australian type year from Stephen Canelio if they're going to go deep this season. So I'm really happy with the Cogs pick, and nothing can sway me from that at this point. So yeah, at FA I have Tim Taranto. So someone that I don't think is an absolute must-have. And if you do drop Taranto to, say, a Zeeble or something, you can free up quite a bit of cash and upgrade elsewhere. But for now, I think Taranto is a pretty safe pick. I just think, the upside's clearly there, and 55% ownership. He's one that I'm not really prepared to take a risk on and not pick him. Looked pretty decent in the practice match in the end, so I don't think he's that much of a it's a bit of a no-brainer. So F4 is Errol Goulden. So it's someone I've really thought about, and I've thought about going against him just because we really don't trust John Longmire, but I think what I said initially is true, and that is the upside is just too high. It's very rare. I heard JD say this in a video in his team review last night, and it was a good insight because it's just like, when was the last time we've seen a forward come out and pump out a score like this and not be good. Like, it was a mid. If it was a mid, I'd be like, all right, maybe not. But this guy's a forward. He only needs to go like 95 or 100 odd. So his CBAs were at 10% last year. He would only need to increase them to maybe 20, 30, and he'd probably go 100 plus. But on the flip side of that, imagine if he goes to like a 50% CBA or a 40%. Well, then he could go 110 plus. You know, the kid's obviously a jet. I think he's actually potentially a tag target at this point, because if he plays like that every week, he's going to be getting tagged. I'm sorry, but 45 touches and 3 goals. He played probably one of the best practice matches of all time, if not the best. So, Errol Goulden could be a big old trap if John Longmire doesn't play him correctly. But, you know, worst case, he averages 86. If he doesn't start hot, I'll drop him to like a Zeeble or a Flanders if he works out. So Flanders, spoiler alert, he's not in my team. So yeah, there's plenty of options with him. And one thing I'm not going to be afraid to do is jump off these kind of players early if they don't have that role. So it's all faith is in John Longmire's hands. And I think, yeah, if that practice match didn't show him how good of a midfielder this guy can be, he's got to be the most blind, dumb prick I've ever seen in the history of the planet. All right, F5, Tanner Bruin, 10% ownership. Now, this guy's one that I've been so hot on since I watched him. I watched him very closely against the best midfielder in the competition, quite comfortably, I would think. And like, he just looked unreal. I don't think anyone coming back into that team is going to affect him. He had plenty of CBAs. He had plenty of CBAs in the first practice match as well, and apparently tore it up. I think he's their number one mid quite comfortably. So the only one that could maybe... I think Mitch Duncan was playing half-back, so I don't think he will actually push into there. But yeah, I think Tanner Bruin's their guy now. Like, in a good team like Geelong, I think Bruin can really go... I think he can actually be a keeper. And it sounds crazy, but the way he played in those practice matches, he looked absolutely unreal, and he's definitely the one I'm most confident in out of all the mid-prices. I think he's an absolute guarantee to go 90. And like I said, if he doesn't fire early, we can drop him down to either like a Sheasel or like a Philippou or something, you know what I mean? Any rookie that started well. So I think it's safe to have a couple of these mid-prices in, but not too many, because if they all flop, then you're really in trouble. But yeah, Tanner Bruin is one that I don't see flopping. F6, Harry Sheasel. So someone that I'm not really confident fielding at this point, but like, I like the fact that he scored 73, only having one goal in an absolute beatdown. So they moved him into the back line after he wasn't getting much of the ball in the forward line, which I really like the idea of that. I think that's a good sign of things to come, and it means that they're not probably going to let him have games where he just completely does nothing. However, like, they could move him very late to the point where he has no chance to score, which could hurt a bit. But I think for now, Sheasel's the only one I'd actually kind of trust his role. I think Philippou's going to be stuck on that forward line the whole time, and obviously like your Fergus Greens and all that, they're just forwards. So yeah, Sheasel's one I'm quite not comfortable, but I'm most comfortable with. And F6, it's a really tough one. You could go a Zeeble, and that's probably the safest bet, because, you know, Zeeble can probably go 85, 90. But yeah, I just can't afford him at this point with this structure. So it's one I'm happy to miss out on and just take a punt on Sheasel. But yeah, definitely not comfortable with it. But we got no other options. And then at F6 we have, F7 we have Fergus Green. So someone who's not going to score well, but I think he does have good job security, and you know, he's going to be like a bit of a not Cozzy Pickett. What's his name? Kazitsky. Jacob Kazitsky, or whatever his name is, from Hawthorn. So going to be like that medium-sized forward that can take a mark and kick maybe a few goals. But yeah, in a bad team or in a bottom 8 team like Hawthorn, it's probably not going to be the best. But like I said, job security's there. So maybe a slow burn, and then we're running a loop at F8, and hopefully going to loop between these two guys, Sheasel and Green. And that's it for the team. So structure-wise, I'm really happy with this. I think, you know, I've literally played around with structure for so long now, and just quietly, why the hell is Charlie Constable projected 6 points? It's so bizarre. Anyway, yeah, I've played around with structure for so long now, And this is what I've come to conclusion with, and I'm happy with. So, yeah, I think obviously not going either of the big dogs, I think could really hurt, but it also could really benefit me. It's risky going them on the fact that they could be so much cheaper, but at the same time, you do pick Oliver and Laird, and you know they're going to be top 8. They're going to be in your team all year, regardless of their price. So, yeah, it's one to consider. In terms of vice captain, I think I'm probably leaning towards Doherty into Bont. Bont didn't have the best game last time they played. Oh, he did have a good game last time they played Melbourne. It was a round 1 game. He was quite average. So, yeah, they're playing at the MCG. Bont does love Marvel, so it'll be either Bont or McRae. Sorry. St Kilda went massive against, my God. Yeah, and then Doherty as the VC, I think we'll probably take him. He went quite large against Richmond the last 2 games, 128 and 144. So, yeah, 120 plus is something I'll definitely take at this point. But, yeah, that is the team. Gone against some of the traps I've said. Obviously, no Tom Stewart. I'm still pretty firm that he's not a trap, but he's a starting selection trap because he, in my opinion, is going to get tagged in the first 2 times in the first 6 games. Therefore, it's just not worth it for 600k. So, yeah, that's the team. And obviously, yeah, Cornelia I'm very hot on now, which you probably think, what the hell, I just said he was a trap. But, nah, I've really thought about it a bit more, and I just don't think he could be a trap. I just don't see a world where he doesn't go 105 plus, especially in that first 6 games. So that'll be definitely enough. And I don't see him getting tagged either. So that's one thing I think I love about my team is I've tried to steer away from players that get tagged. And I think that could really benefit in the long run because I've got a really strong feeling taggers will be, much more prevalent this year, like I said. And I think that they will ruin a lot of promo scores every week. So, see what happens, I guess. It's just a gut feeling. But thank you guys for watching. 27 minutes, quite a long video. But, fingers crossed. This is my team going around 1. And, good luck.